This part is the end of session 3, which is on formatting. All our previous sessions on formatting was based on what is applied to the information contained in the pages. However, for this formatting we are about to do, the focus will be on the pages on which the information is contained. That is, we are looking at formatting that affects the structure of the page itself, even though it may have some sort of impact on the content. Here we are not looking at making any modification to the content, but rather to the page on which the content is found. We have a number of formats that can be applied to the page, so let's go ahead with it. The first page format we are looking at is page margins. In earlier lesson on formatting, I remember we discussed page margins and I believe indentations, and we were made to understand that page margins refers to the space around the content on the page, that is, the free space at the top, bottom, right and left of the information we have on a page is what we refer to as page margins. Now, the purpose of the page margins mostly is to limit excuse me is to limit the extent to which the contents can cover on the page. That is, the page margins set the boundary for the content so that the content cannot extend or go beyond those boundaries set by the page margins. Now, usually you can change the default page margin. The default page margin is always the normal page margin. Now, you can either set the margins to leave more space. You can reduce the margin so that you have more space on the page for the information, or you can increase the margin so that you reduce the space for the content. Now let us look at how we set the margins. The steps, we have a number of ways we can set the page margins, about 3 of them, but our focus for now is to look at the first option, whose steps are given to us as follows. Step 1, click the page layout tab. Step 2, click the margins button on the page setup group. Step 3, click the preferred margin on the drop down menu. Let us have a demonstration of this. I'm inserting some text now. Okay. So we have our margins up here at this side, that side, and then below. Now, how do we change the page margins? Step 1 says we click on the page layout. Step 2, you click the margins button. Step 3, you look at or scroll through to identify the margins that you prefer. Now, I need you to take note that each option of predefined margins, as we have here, have their top, left, bottom, and right margin set. So the moment you click it, that set margins will now be applied to your information. So I'm clicking moderate. Moment I click moderate, the moderate margins are applied, so that here you see that the content covers more space, as it wasn't so in the previous margins, normal margins. Let me show you. Yeah, when you look here, the margins here covers 1 inches, here too it covers 1 inches, and then I believe the top two, yeah, covers 1 inches. But if we apply the new margins now, the margins, the left side covers half inches, right half inches, and the top remains at 1 inches. All right, let us apply another one. So I click on the layout, come to margins. Let me apply narrow here. You can see that the content covers more space, while the margins are drastically reduced. Now, the advice I want to give you is that when you want to apply margins, you need to be thinking of the binding of the document as well. For some materials, when you pick them after binding and you open, you see that some of the information has gone into the binded part, okay, of the paper, which shouldn't be so. And this happens because of the way the margins were set. So as you try to set your margins, be mindful that you leave enough space, okay, enough margins, enough space that when you bind, some of the information will not find itself into the binded part. So yes, it is good to contain more information on the page, but make sure that you have space, more free space for binding as well. Alright, we have looked at how we set the margins using the predefined margins. Now let us look at another way of setting the margins using the page setup. Let me change this. Page setup dialog box. Okay, the procedure is given to us as follows. So step 1, click the page layout tab. Step 2, click the margins button on the page setup group. Step 3, click custom margins on the drop down menu. Step 4, on the margins tab, select the values for the top, bottom, left, and right in their respective boxes. Step 5. Click the OK button to complete. Let us demonstrate this. Okay. So here we are customizing or we are defining our own margins instead of using the predefined margin. So we are told to click the page layout tab, then you click the margins button, then you click custom margins, then you set your preferred margins size over here. So let me reduce this one to, let's say, 0.7. Same applies to this, and then maybe let me reduce this one to, let's say, 0.5 inches, and then 0.5 inches. Then when you are done, you click the OK button. So there you have it. I have set my own margins using the page setup dialog box. But there's another way of setting the margins. Instead of going to the page setup dialog box, you can also just come to the ruler. Now on the ruler, the gray part indicates the size of the margins, okay, and the white part on the ruler indicates the size or space for the content. Now to set your margin, if you want to use your ruler, you can just place the mouse pointer on the edge between the two. Then when you put the pointer on the border between the two, you press and hold the left mouse button, and then you drag to the point where you want your margin to be. Okay, as I am doing here. Can also do same here, and then same down there as well. But remember, as I said, you need to be mindful that you leave enough space for the binding. Alright, we are done with margins, page margins. Now let's come to page orientation. Page orientation is the direction in which a document is displayed or printed. There are two types of page orientations, which are portrait and landscape. Portrait orientation refers to the arrangement of the content lengthwise or vertically on the page. Landscape, on the other hand, refers to the arrangement of the content widthwise or horizontally on the page. The default orientation is portrait. Now let me briefly explain this. You know that most papers we print on are in rectangular shape. Now, once it is rectangular, it will have a width and then it will have a length. Okay, so when we organize the information so that the information is arranged lengthwise, then the applied orientation is portrait. But if we arrange the information on the paper horizontally or widthwise, then the applied orientation is known as landscape. Now let us demonstrate. Let us look at the procedure on how we can change the page orientation. Again, it is advisable that you choose the preferred orientation before you begin entering contents on the page. As I told you already, you need to do your page formats before you enter information on the pages, so that it will not cause any disorganization in the information itself. Okay. Alright, let us look at the steps. Step 1, click the page, that is the page you want to change its orientation. Click anywhere within that page. And then 2, click the page layout tab. 3, click the orientation button. 4, click the preferred orientation on the drop-down menu. Alright, let us demonstrate this. Sorry about that. So we are told the steps. 1 says we click anywhere on the page, and then we click orientation. Alright, so we have portrait and landscape. I told you default is always portrait, but if you prefer landscape, you click landscape. Alright, so now you see that the information is displayed widthwise. Okay, so this is a landscape. The previous case, it was displayed lengthwise. Okay, it was displayed lengthwise. Alright, so that is it about orientations. Let us look at how we can make use of page numbering. Now, page numbering refers to a series of numbers used to identify particular pages in the document for reference or navigation purposes. That is the purpose of page numbers are numbers we use to identify the individual pages in our document. Alright, now page numbers are usually placed in the header, footer, or side margins. Here we are looking at the left side and then the right side. Why do we use page numbers in our document? 1 is to enable the reader to keep track of the succession of the information being read. That is, it helps the reader to follow the sequence of the information in the document, so that he knows that from here I'm going there, then. Alright. Then 2, makes it easy to cite any page. If you have page numbers, and let's say in the document, and you are writing an article or writing a research report, and you need to quote some of the information in the book, you can easily identify the page that the information on by looking at or identifying the page number. So once you know the page number, anybody who reads your material can quickly go to the book, open to that page number, and then understand, okay, this is where he referenced this information from. Alright, 3. Page numbers enables the reader to find specific pages or sections within the document. Okay, so as similar to the example I gave, so you can easily open to any page and find any information you are looking for. And then 4, enables the reader to know the volume or size of the document. Okay. Then 5, it serves as a marker to be referenced from the table of content, so that if, let's say, I'm on the table of content and you say formatting is on page 17, once I see it, I can easily open to page 17 and then I will be able to read the information from there. How do we assign page numbers in our document? The steps are given as follows. 1. Click the Insert tab. 2. Click the Page Number button on the header and footer group. 3. Choose where you want to put the page number. 4. Scroll through the gallery flyout menu and click the preferred page number numbering style. Alright, so let us demonstrate this. Okay, so we want to assign page numbers. Step 1 says we click the Insert tab. Step 2, we are to click the page number. When you click the page number button, and then you have the various optional places that you can put your page number. So you have top, bottom, page margins, or current position. I believe most of the time we place page numbers at the bottom, especially for formal documents. So I'm choosing bottom. Then you notice that flyout gallery appears. Okay, so you scroll through and then you click the page numbering style that you want. Okay, you have a lot of them here. Scroll and then you click whichever one that you prefer. So let's assume I want this. So I'll click it. Once I click, the page number and numbering style I selected appears. Okay, so you can double click your content in your content. Once you double click, you are done. Okay, so we have the page number, page 1, excuse me, page 2, and so on and so forth. Currently we have the decimal numbers used as our numbering style. But if, let's say, we want to use the Roman numbers, okay, as the numbering format that we want, we can modify that. You follow the same procedure. You come to the Insert tab, then you go to Page Number, then you come to Format Page Numbers, and then you click it. Once you click it, you see that you have different numbering styles. So you click this chevron or arrow button here, then you see the available numbering styles. Okay, so the one you prefer, you click it. Alright, and then you click OK. Now you see that we have a page, what I'll term as pagination in Roman numbers. Okay, we are done with page numbers. Let us look at what is known as header and footer, or headers and footers. A header is the top margin of each page, whereas a footer is the bottom margin of each page. What we are saying is the top free space that we term as margin, that space up there is what we refer to as the header, and then the free space down there, which is the bottom margin, is referred to as footer. Also understand that header can also refer to the information we place at that free space. Okay, and footer could also be referred to as any information we enter in that bottom space. So for instance, the page number that we just learned, that number is a footer, and the number is at the footer. I hope you understand. Alright. So headers and footers are useful for including information that you want to appear on every page of a document. So if you have information that you want to make sure that that information appears on every page, for instance, for some books, you notice that they put the book title at the top. So let's say Introduction to Microsoft Office, or you can have Introduction to Mathematics, or sometimes they may want to put the author's name or his if I may say pet name there, or whatever name it is. So you see something like Stochastic series and those things, they appear on each page. Now if you want something like that, that is the header we are talking at, if it is at the top. But if it is at the bottom, then it is a footer. Apart from that, you can also put the date or a footnote or the page numbers, as we have already mentioned, as either a header or footer. Let us look at how we insert headers in our document. Step 1. Click the Insert tab. Step 2. Click the Header button at the Header and Footer group. Step 3. Scroll through and click the preferred header style from the drop-down gallery. Step 4. type the information you want to insert as the header in that space. In the style that you comes. Then 5, press the escape key on the keyboard to complete. A demonstration. To insert header, you click the Insert tab. Then you come to this group, header and footer group. You click header, and a drop-down gallery of header styles appear, pre-designed header styles. Okay, so you scroll through and you choose whichever one you prefer. So let's assume I want this one, motion, so I'll click it. Okay, so let me put let's say the book title, or if I may say a unit title, then I'll put here as, let's say, Introduction to Formatting. And when you are done, you can press the escape key. You can press the escape key to complete. What do you see? The header appears. Now you see it as gray, but when you print, it will come in full color. Okay, it will not appear as light as you see it. Okay, so you see the header appearing on each of the pages. We've already inserted a page number, okay, as a footer. But if, let's say, you don't want a page number and you want a footer, let us look at how we insert footers in our document. Step 1, click the Insert tab. Step 2, click the Footer button at the header and footer group. Step 3, scroll through and click the preferred footer style from the drop-down gallery. Step 5, type the information you want to insert as the footer. And step 5, press the escape key on the keyboard to complete. Demonstration. To insert a footer, we are told to click the Insert tab. We come to the header and footer group and click Footer. Then we are given a list of footer styles. So we can choose whichever one that we want. So for instance, I want the retrospect. Okay, so there we have our footer. Then I can insert the author's name there, maybe Charles Manson. Okay, once I am done, you see that now the page number has changed because of the style we choose. Okay, so when you are done, you press the escape key on your keyboard, or you can click close header and footer button here. You can click it, it will perform the same function, so I'm clicking that one. Then we have our footer appearing on each of the pages. Okay, alright, So that is how we insert headers and footers from the pre-designed ones. But if you don't want to use any of the pre-designed ones, you also have the option of inserting your own header and footer. How do we go about it? Step 1 tells us to double click anywhere on the top or bottom margin of your document. The insertion point will appear in the header or footer once you double click there. Step 2. Type the desired information into the header or footer. Step 3. When you are finished, click Close Header and Footer, or you can press the Escape key. The header or footer text will appear in the spaces where you type. Let us have a demonstration. Okay, so what we are saying is you can just double click in the header space or top margin, and then whatever you want there. So introduction to, okay, let me put here chapter 1. Chapter 1. Okay, introduction to computers, and then you can apply any format that you want. If you want to center, if you want to align right, if you want to change the font, okay, you want to change the font or apply italic or even change the font color, whatever you want, you can do it. And then when you are done, you press the Escape key on your keyboard, and there you have your header. So you can do same here. You can place a footer down here, double click at the footer. You can type the information you want there. Sorry. Okay, so then you can close this one too. There you have your own header and own footer inserted. Alright, we are done with headers and footers. Let us look at another page formatting, which will be the final for this session, and it is page breaks. A page break is a code inserted by the Microsoft Word program to inform the printing device where pages begin and where they end. A page break marks the ending of one page and the beginning of another or succeeding page. What we are saying is page breaks are used to determine where a page begins and where a page ends. When a page becomes full, that is when you reach the boundary set at the bottom margin, Microsoft Word inserts a page break so that the information that follows goes to the next page. This kind of page break is called soft page break. A soft page break is a type of page break automatically inserted by the MS Word program to mark the end of the page and the beginning of another page. With soft page break, any modification you make on the page affects the organization of the rest of the pages. So what are we trying to say here? When you type or when you enter information on a page and the page becomes full, it means that the page cannot contain any more information. So what happens? The Microsoft Word program ends that page and then begins a new page or creates a new page in the document so that the next information that you enter will go to that new page that has been created by the program. Now, when the program by itself creates that kind of break between the current page and then when the program terminates a page and creates a new page, that activity is what we term as soft page break. But apart from the program inserting its own page break, you as a user can also insert your own page break manually. In this situation, the page break that you will create is known as hard page break. Hard page break, unlike the soft page break that is created when the page becomes full, for hard page break, it can be created anywhere on the page. So which means you can terminate a page at any point within the page and create a new page where you now insert the new information that you are about to create or enter. With hard page break, you create partitions in the document. Hard page breaks can be inserted either before or after content has been entered. Hard page breaks do not allow the modification, that is, the text or content editing and formatting that you have done, to affect the new page that you create. Usually, hard page breaks are used to break the document into chapters, sections, units, and subunits. There are two types of hard page break, namely page break and section break. Let us look at page break. This is a type of hard page break that creates a partition that has some connection with the previous partition. what we are saying is, with page break, you divide your document into segments or divisions. Now, even though you divide your document into segments, note that whatever formatting you apply to the information of one segment or division will not have any impact on the other segments or partitions within the document. However, with page break, the page formatting that you apply on one segment will reflect on the other segments or partitions that you create in the document. And you've learned some of the page formatting already, such as page margins, or page orientations, headers and footers, page numberings. All these formats, okay, will also be applied to the other, all the sections, all the segments that you have created. So if you put a header in one segment or partition, that header will appear in all the other partitions or segments. If you put page numbering there, the style of number that you choose will be the same numbering style that will appear in the other segments. And even the sequencing of the numbers will be the same. So if, let's say, one segment ends at page 5, then it means that the page number at the beginning of the next segment will be 6. Why? Because the page formats applies to all segments if you use the page break. Why? Because there's a connection between the segments. Let us look at how we create page breaks in our document. Step 1. Click where you want to insert the page break. Step 2. Click the Insert tab. Step 3. Click Page Break. Let us have a demonstration. Alright, so I have page 1 here, then page 2. But I want to create a new partition from here so that this part will not be part of the partition that will be up. How do I go about it? Formally, some of you will be pressing enter several times, and then a new page is created. That is not a page break. And that is a wrong way of dividing your document. What will happen is, if you apply any change here, like if, let's say, I change the font size of this text up here to, let's say, 36, what do you notice? you will see that it has affected the rest. Okay, so it disorganizes or affects the rest of the pages. So you see that it has created space here, and then you see where our new text has begun. Okay, so that is not a partition. It means that it is so part of only one partition. So whatever you do on any page will reflect on the other pages. But the best way is to create your partitions. So now let us create a partition here. So the procedure is given to us as click where you want to insert the page break, and then you click the insert tab, then you click page break. The moment you do that, you have created a partition. So now this part becomes the first partition, and then from this point we have another partition. Now let us apply some formatting here and see what happens. Okay, so you see that whatever you do in this partition or segment is maintained within that segment, so that if the information on the page cannot fail or is too much for the space provided, it will create a new page within that partition and place that information there without having any impact on the partition that you created, the new partition that you created. So that is a nice way of organizing your chapters. But as I said, note that any page format that you apply on the first partition will be the same page formats that will be applied on the rest of the partitions should we use the page break. All right, let us look at the other type of hard page break, which is section break. A section break is used to divide the document into sections such that each section can have its own page formats that are different from that of the other sections. So this tells us that here we break our document into sections, or we break them into partitions, all right. But with this kind of partition, there is no connection between the page formats of one section and the other sections. So here, each section exists on its own. So if, let's say, I have page header on one page, it means that another section can have its own page header different from that of the previous section. I hope you get the difference between page break and section break. With page break, there's a connection between the sections by way of having the same page formats. With section break, there is no connection between the sections or partitions due to the fact that each section can have its own page formats. So each section can have its own page orientation, page numbering, margins. We can set each section's own margins, and it will have no effect on the other sections that you have, and so on and so forth. Let us look at how we create section breaks in a document. Step 1. Click where you want to insert the section break. Step 2. On the Page Layout tab, click Breaks button. Step 3. Under Section Break, click Next Page if preferred. This will insert the section break, and text following the section break will begin on a new page. Or if you want the text to continue on the same page, under section breaks, click Continuous. What this means is that we can have at least two basic types of section break. That is the one which, when you create, will cause the information at the point where you've inserted, where you've placed the insertion point. It will create that section by moving that information there to a new page to begin the section from there. But if you don't want the new section to begin from a new page, but you prefer that the section is created on the same page as the previous section above, then you should choose Continuous instead of Next Page. Let us have a demonstration of this. Okay, so I want to create section break from this point. Let us look at the procedure. Step 1, say we click the Page Layout tab, and then in this group we click Breaks, and then we come to the section break side, and then we choose either Next Page or Continuous. So I will choose Next Page. So the new page is created, and then now we have our section here. If I want to create the sections on the same page, then instead of choosing next page, I will choose Continuous. So now, even though you don't see it now, you've created two sections on this page. Alright, let us create a new section here by choosing next page. Right, let me create another section break here. Alright. If you remember, I told you that each section created exists on its own, and therefore each section can have its own content formats and page formats. Alright, now let me apply the landscape orientation to this section here. Okay, the first section. Now you notice that the landscape is applied to the pages within the section. But when you come to the next section, you see that the landscape didn't apply to them. But if we had chosen oh dear me. Okay, let me save this and then okay, I'm closing it. Seems okay. Alright, so the new page comes. Alright, so let me insert text here. Okay, I've inserted a new document, so let me create partitions here. This time I'm creating the normal page break. Okay, so you can find all the page breaks here. On page layout, you can come down here to breaks, and then I'll choose this option. Now this option here is the same as coming to insert and then clicking this page break option. Okay, alright, let me insert another page break here. And another page break here. Okay, so now we have 3 partitions or segments. If you remember, we said once we use the normal page break, the page formats of one section applies to the rest of the sections. So if I apply the landscape orientation to this section, the first section or the first segment, let's scroll down and see. You notice that that format we selected is applied to all the segments that we created. But with the previous one that we looked at, that was the section break, you notice that each segment existed on its own without having any connection, or each section existed on its own without having any connection with the other sections, so that any formats, page formats that you apply to a particular section is not replicated on the other sections. Okay, let me create the section breaks over here. So I want this one to begin on a different page as a section. an independent section, okay, or segment. Same, I've created another one here. From here, let me create another section. Okay, so we apply orientation to this. We apply the landscape. All right. Okay, let's insert page numbers here. Okay, this one. All right. Okay. You notice that this page number is the same as this. But what you can do is that you can create its own page numbering style. Okay. So now I want to create a new page numbering style over here. So I'll come here, choose that, scroll through, and choose this. Sorry, I can have different page numbering formats. So let me choose this one here. Then I'll come to page format, page numbers. Then I'll choose this option, start at 1, and then I'll click OK. So you see that the numbering begins at 1 on this page with the Roman numerals. Okay, but if you come up here, it starts with what? The decimal values, okay, which is the normal 1. Okay. Now let us apply a header to this section. Okay. So insert header. Okay, I'll choose this. Then I'll type. Let me type chapter 1. Chapter 1 here. Introduction to MS Word. And then you click anywhere in your document. So we've inserted our header. You double click here. We can come down here. You see that this header is coming from the previous. So we don't want this kind of header because all sections can exist on their own. But if we had applied the normal page break, once you change a header or a footer in any of the sections, no matter the number of times, let's say if you change it 10 times, with each change, it will be that change that will appear on all the sections. Okay, but for section breaks, each section, as you have learned, exists on its own. So I'm going to create a new header here. So I'll put section 2, and then I'll type editing the document in MS Word. Okay. Yeah, so you can see that you have the sections displayed here. Okay. So now, after you type and then you click anywhere within your header, then you deactivate this one. So here, link to previous, which means you don't want the current header of this section to be applied to the previous. Okay, you don't want it to be applied to the other sections above. Okay, so you don't want this header to go on the first section. Okay, so let us click this. So we have deactivated. So you deactivate link to previous. No, we don't want it so. Okay, now let's close this. So we have chapter 2. The header is what? Chapter 2, editing a document. Let's go to chapter. No. This one should not be here. Let us type this on here. Chapter 1. Introduction to MS Word. Yeah. Let's double click. Why is this happening? I think there's a problem with my machine. Let me correct. Okay, editing a document in MS Word. Okay, so now let's click anyway. It shouldn't be so. Okay. Let's just double click this. Then come here. I believe the problem is coming from my machine. I'll use a different machine, but I believe it will work on yours. Sometimes mine misbehaves at times. If you use a different machine, it will work. Okay, so that each section will have its own header and footer. Alright, so we are done with this lesson. We shall meet in the next one. Have a great day.